Welcome to the Korea Pro Podcast, your weekly guide to understanding the most pressing and complicated developments shaping South Korea. We're your hosts, Jeongmin Kim,
John Lei,
and Joon Ha Park of Korea Pro.
Go beyond headlines as we explain not just what happened, but also what really matters and why it matters.
If you monitor South Korea for work or just trying to keep up, you're in the right place.
This is the Korea Pro Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Korea Pro Podcast. It is now Thursday. It's a little bit before 5 p.m. And, well, this week, there's only one real topic that we're going to be talking about. So, Jeongmin, Joon Ha, please kick us off.
Yeah, so President Donald Trump, he is walking down another shitty path and saying that he's going to meet with Kim Jong Un. But before that, he said on Truth Social on Sunday, before the annual summertime military drills between the United States and South Korea,
the biggest, the most important one, Ulchi Freedom Shield.
That he had ordered Secretary Hegseth to substantially reduce, quote unquote, the drills.
And what did he cite?
He cited his special or good relationship with Kim Jong Un and also the president of South Korea, Lee Jae Myung's apparent refusal to join efforts to denuclearize Iran.
And then he also mentioned like his usual spiel, like it's costly, and the logic was, if there is any, it was something like, I'm in very good relations with Kim Jong Un, and because of that, I'm very unhappy with how our forces are joining this very expensive military exercise. Was his logic adjacent?
Not really. South Korea and the United States have their SMA going on, their special measures.
SMA is? Yeah.
Yeah, special measures agreement. It's the 12th one that's been active since 2025. Goes on for 5 years until 2030. South Korea pays 1.5 billion, I think, yearly. For the USFK and for these drills. So it's not really a good assessment for President Trump or any assessment that he makes so far.
And not only that, it reflects badly on Trump, it reflects badly on whatever plans that US and South Korea had in mind and probably was in progress when it comes to anything like OPCON transfer, new readiness posture, what to do with the FCFC, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
He did mention something like, I know it's impractical for the drills to halt completely, so I asked Hegseth to reduce it. But didn't UFS already start when he mentioned?
It was on the eve.
That was crazy.
Yeah, so
because everything is already planned.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we saw reports of Xavier Brunson, the USFK commander, go to the Defense Ministry building.
Which is also very rare.
Yeah, on the day to apparently have a meeting with the defense authorities of South Korea. When he was asked by reporters as to why he was there, he reportedly said, you saw the Truth Social, right? We're here to talk about that.
Ooh, do I smell some sass?
Yeah, and
more like anger.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, who knows? But then we saw the next day that South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff announced that upon Washington's request, or the White House's request, that these drills will be cut short and adjusted from 11 days to 5 days.
That's unheard of. That's crazy. It's not like
first time.
It's not like during the 2018 to 2021 period where they were still sort of flirting with the idea of North Korea denuclearization, and they kind of used South Korea and the US it was during Pompeo, right?
Yeah.
Used the idea of reduced drills or suspended drills to sort of bring North Korea back to the table, because it's that kind of reflects on how they want to remove what North Korea calls hostile policy. But this is very different from that, because there's no real diplomacy going on at the moment. And also, it's not like they are announcing this way ahead of the drill. It's starting.
Yeah, and to allude more fact to that, it does look like the South Koreans or the U.S. military working level authorities were informed of anything that Mr. Trump would have posted on Truth Social beforehand. It does look like something that was discussed between him and Hegseth in the Oval Office or whatnot. And then it just came out. We saw the South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun, the South Korean Defense Minister An Gyu-baek come out and say this was a unilateral decision by President Trump, and there was no communication beforehand.
And also we cannot name anybody, but from what we hear here and there on both sides, it seems like all the working levels and even top to bottom, basically, everybody involved were taken by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, this is not just any normal exercise. This is South Korea's biggest or one of two biggest exercises with the United States yearly. The Freedom Shield that goes on in the spring and the Ulchi Freedom Shield that was just shortened in the summertime, those both form the apex, as so to speak, of the U.S. ROK alliance or ROK-U.S. alliance going forward. So, and also at the same time, as we mentioned before, it was a test for the eventual OPCON transfer, which the U.S. states as 2029. South Korea wants it probably sooner. So we're looking at quite a bunch of friction between the two sides as they move toward that goal.
And also inherently just it's contradictory and incoherent. If both sides want the OPCON transfer to happen, what they need to do is to meet the conditions and do the drills in order to prove that the conditions are met. But if you are dialing down to more than half, how are you going to do that within that time, regardless of how it's 2028 or 29? It's still, both of them are very short. It's short deadline, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the reasoning we discussed it just briefly, but he did say in his initial Truth Social post that President Lee's apparent refusal to join U.S. war efforts in Iran was alluded to as the sort of reasoning behind this USF or UFS shortening. At the same time, citing his relationship with Kim Jong Un, that he's continued on now for the past 3 or 4 days, where North Korea has effectively denied, saying that there was no response from us. We have no idea what Trump is talking about. And Trump,
but our relations are good.
Yeah,
but there was no communication.
Yeah, but there's a lot of friendliness between Trump and Kim Jong Un. But at the same time, we still are not happy with the U.S.'s hostile stance.
Going back to the Iran-related stuff, reading that together with the later Truth Social about the reduction of the drills, it did look like the primary audience for that was kind of domestic, because it sort of echoes what he usually says, but with a North Korea Kim Jong Un spin a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
UFS spin.
Yeah, he tied that in like the following day when he was at the Oval Office with some firefighter that he awarded, and he was facing questions from reporters as to why he actually said it. And
so as a press gaggle.
Yeah, so why he made that directive to Hexas, and then he cited again a wrong number for the count of U.S. troops on the peninsula.
Maybe he's an AI and really bad at math.
He's a number of things that don't form human nature, but he's someone that has repeated the stance that South Korea is not doing much for "quote unquote" the alliance
throughout the year, basically, especially since Hormuz.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So for us, covering all these slew of breaking news late night, which gave us PTSD from 2018 a little bit, although that was Twitter at the time, and it was not just random one remarks, but these were like a lot of ADHD font statements, not just from Trump, but Kim Yo-jong's statement, by the way, was also like all sorts of ADHD going on in there. It was very difficult to understand who thought of what for what reason. And for one, I'm still thinking, why would he try to link the Iran aspect to ultimately the decision to order Hegseth to reduce the UFS? You wrote about that, John.
Well, let me start by saying that when I first heard of this news, it was through Twitter, where someone had screenshot that Truth Social post. And as I read the Truth Social post, my first thought was, how do we know that the person who actually wrote this post was actually Donald Trump or Natalie Harp? And for those of you who don't know, Natalie Harp is supposedly this, assistant secretary or someone who has been following Donald Trump around, allegedly cleaning out of shit-filled diapers. I don't know. But Apparently, this woman has also been drafting some of his Truth Social posts. And so, do we know from Donald Trump or from her? Who knows? But at this point, regardless of who is actually the president of the United States, that tweet went out and it caused a 73-year-old alliance to really come to a screeching halt for a moment and think, what the F is going on?
And it impacted not just the people who were directly participating in the drills. It just impacts millions because there are a lot of moving pieces whenever these summertime drills happen because it creates chain effect.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just this drill, but if stuff that has to be tested this summer does not get done properly, it will be pushed back to the FS. If it's pushed back to the FS, it will impact the security consultative meeting as well. And it will go on and on and on. So it's impacting not just military, but diplomatic and government executive branch, everybody.
But going back to your question as to linking UFS to Iran. Now, the whole thing about Iran is that no matter how much Donald Trump or Pete Hegseth goes on Fox News to say that everything's going great because, Baghdad Bob apparently needs to get another job, they've been saying that they have no real problems, that morale on the USS Abraham Lincoln is topsy-turvy, it's all freaking great. And so all of this is going on, but at the same time, the news media keeps interviewing the family members of the U.S. sailors on the USS Abraham Lincoln. They're posting pictures of food that would not be good enough to serve in prison that U.S. personnel apparently have to be eating for the 9 months that they've been there. And so with all of these news reports coming out, Donald Trump's poll numbers are tanking. They are 33%, and the November midterm elections are just weeks away at this point. And so Donald Trump desperately needs to turn the narrative around and show a win. And so what's easier for the United States president? Is it easier to actually win a war against an foreign aggressor that's firing missiles or against an ally who is trying to make nice with Washington? Obviously, it's the latter. So he's going to shit on South Korea because why not? And so, okay, since Donald Trump became president and said, I'm the tariff man, South Korea has been going out of its way to make pledges of investments. While it can be argued that the South Korean government has been slow in its $350 billion investment in the United States, that has not been the case when it comes to private corporations. Hanwha, SK, Samsung, LG, POSCO, they've all been pouring money into the United States. They've all been gung-ho about helping to build America's semiconductor sector, shipbuilding sector. Right now, South Korea is one of the United States' best friends. But at this point, none of that matters. And so South Korean companies and the government shouldn't have pledged billions of dollars in investments. They should have just written another frickin' love letter.
Yeah, so the UFS drills that were supposed to happen for 11 days, they were supposed to test South Korea's FOC, so future operational capability, which would, in fact, assess whether they can lead a future combined forces command as the OPCON transfer. COTP suggests.
Which was supposed to be a big progress,
yeah.
right?
So we were supposed to see a branch of assessments come out from the USFK and also part of the UNC on South Korea's ability to lead joint operations or combined operations. And then they were supposed to be reflected and reported to both countries' defense ministers or defense authorities based on and decide on a potential OPCON transfer deadline date. We saw South Korea and the United States planning 14 or so battalion level exercises. These are field training exercises. We saw a few reports of live fire drills that were planned between the two forces, command post exercises that would see a South Korean general or a South Korean colonel take charge. But at the same time, we haven't really seen much clarity as to how that will be shifted.
And just personally, I just felt really sorry for everybody involved in the UFS because it takes months of planning for this 2 weeks. And regardless of whether they are USFK or MND or JCS, whatever, if you're a working level or below, just trying to do your job within deadline. This is sort of like your boss telling you same work, but much shorter deadline, just do it. And, it's not their fault, but I can imagine they're getting a lot of calls from reporters as well, asking what America's real intention is. They probably don't know either.
They probably need a very strong drink right about now.
Or maybe they have to wait until Friday, I guess. And while I was feeling so sorry about this and quite frustrated, honestly, looking at that, I could see that Lee Jae Myung was being a bit frustrated too. And what does he do when he's frustrated? He tweets.
At midnight.
And it was a very, he wrote a thesis on Twitter. And long story short, he was basically saying, "Dear esteemed superstar of the world, Mr. Donald Trump, esteemed president, I think what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, is you love peace. That's why you're doing this, right? If that's correct, I'm so looking forward to meeting you again, dear esteemed superstar president." That was the tone,
XOXO.
right? XOXO. That was the tone. It was very long.
I know that President Lee used to be a lawyer, and so he's probably got a JD in his title somewhere. But honestly, the man should also have a PhD in brown nosing. The man probably had shit all over his nose after all of that ass kissing that he did on Twitter. He basically turned the entire thing into, your views and mine align. This is all about peace. You're the peacemaker. I'm the pacemaker. I'm your buddy. You are awesome, and I love you, Mr. President Donald Trump.
We are never going to get invited to government events in the future.
Yes, I am not gonna ask our producer to cut this, but I just want to say this is not our company perspective. It is by John Lee,
Not mine.
an individual unrelated
Now-
to the Korea Pro official line.
Sure, I get that. Now, hear me out, though.
So speak personally.
He was brown nosing like hell. Now, that
That is true.
Yes, but at the same time, I understand why he did it. He is the
Thank you.
leader of the South. He's the leader of the Republic of Korea. And with Donald Trump behaving like a freaking madman, we cannot also have the South Korean president acting like an insane moron at the same time.
And it doesn't work on Trump like
And
that.
it doesn't work like that. And especially if you are a junior partner in an alliance dealing with a madman like Donald Trump, you have to play his game. And so, despite the cringe and absolute vomit-inducing rhetoric that President Lee had to write, I get why he did it, because someone has to be the adult in the room.
And I can imagine him vomiting too, honestly, writing that.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of which, junior of an alliance, what happened to middle power, the great middle power? It's a great moment for the great middle powers right now.
Don't exist, never did.
So going back to the other topic that you brought up before, for great middle powers or like mini middle powers right now, what's the actual implication when things like this is actually happening and the American president is still holding grudges against what happened in Iran?
Well, the correct answer to give in that sort of an instance is to say that smaller countries, middle powers, or whatever we want to call them, ought to get together and start cooperating. Now, we've just seen in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and another country that I can't remember at the moment, forming a new alliance. I think the other country was Pakistan. I don't know. I could be wrong. But this alliance excluded the United States. Now, when Donald Trump heard about this, he thought, "Oh, this is great. We have additional countries forming alliances and trying to defend themselves," because he's too stupid to realize that this alliance was created precisely because they couldn't trust the United States anymore.
Do you think he knows though?
No, because like I said, he's stupid.
What if he knows?
He is stupid. And so this is something that we have to see going on in East Asia as well. Now, the Japanese ambassador in Australia apparently gave an interview saying that Australia, Japan, and South Korea and the Philippines, they should form a coalition. I was very appreciative of the fact that he used the word coalition and not alliance, because there's no way that an alliance is going to happen like that. It's not like NATO. And so that's the kind of way forward. But going back to what Donald Trump was saying about how South Korea did not supply military assistance.
Is it even possible?
Well, no. That's the whole thing. Okay, so when it comes to South Korean defense, everyone knows about South Korean defense exports, that South Korean weapons platforms are quite impressive, and that the South Korean military itself is a formidable fighting force. But while all of that is true, it is true within the context of the Korean Peninsula. South Korea only has several Aegis destroyers. They are needed to defend against North Korea. If you send one or two of those ships, there's going to be a huge freaking hole in South Korea's defense. And Donald Trump saying, what about the alliance? This is for the alliance. And
If you're looking at the video, he's about to burst, actually. He's turning red.
May I just add just one thing?
yes, please do.
As we're
Thank you, Joon Ha.
as we're talking right now, and John's about to explode into fluffiness, we've just heard from the JCS that North Korea has shot a projectile.
Oh, are you kidding me? Okay, we need to end this podcast very soon then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the Aegis destroyers are needed for those kinds of missiles. But basically, it's just impractical. South Korea could not send fighter jets because, there's no air base in the area. What was South Korea actually expected to do?
Week ahead. What's going on next week? No UFS, I guess.
Well, on August 27th, the Bank of Korea is going to get together to finally decide whether or not they're going to put or raise the interest rate again. So that's something else that we're going to have to look forward to. My money's on raising the interest rate. And besides the BOK, on the same day, well, it will be August 26th in U.S. time, NVIDIA will be publishing its second quarter fiscal results. So, yeah. And all this information will be sent to email inbox by Monday via the weekend newsletter at 2 p.m. So if you'd like to know more, please subscribe. Bye.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in.
If you want to know more, sign up for our daily executive briefings. We'll brief you on all you need to know from the past 24 hours and why it matters, delivered to your inbox every morning.
If you want to stay ahead of the curve, sign up for Korea Pro to get a full package of insights, from daily expert analysis to profiles, month in review, week ahead, and more.
And until next time, I'm Jeongmin Kim.
I'm Joon Ha Park.
And I'm John Lee, and we'll see you next time on the Korea Pro Podcast.